In this component of the Identification and Assessment workshop, we will be looking at some basic facts that teachers need to know in order to help with the identification process. Classroom teachers observe students in a variety of situations and under a variety of conditions. Their unique perspective is valuable when considering students for gifted and talented programs. Although standardized achievement tests and intelligence tests play a key role in the identification of gifted and talented students, many school districts include teachers' ratings of students as part of their selection criteria. Often these ratings are used to form a pool of students to be tested for these programs, and increasingly the ratings are included as part of a total identification system. Because teachers' ratings of students play an important role in identifying gifted students, it is important that teachers are aware of the unique characteristics of gifted students, characteristics which go well beyond their academic production. When we are looking at the identification and assessment of gifted children, it is imperative that we define what giftedness is. According to the Marlin Report, gifted and talented children are those identified by professionally qualified persons who, by virtue of outstanding abilities, are capable of high performance. I think that it's important here that we look at the word capable. It doesn't actually say they are performing high, but they are capable of performing high. These are children who require differentiated educational programs and services beyond those normally provided by the regular school program in order to realize their contributions to self and society. What this indicates to me is that without the right program, our gifted children won't truly realize their potential. If we don't provide them with the right program, and we can't provide them with the right program if we don't identify them. I'd like to take a minute and look at Gagne's differentiated model of giftedness and talent. Robert Gagne was a noted psychologist who asserted that there is a chance that a child will be born with natural abilities. These abilities may be intellectual, creative, socio-affective, and sensory motor. He says that for these natural abilities to be developed, they will be influenced by various catalysts. Some of the catalysts are interpersonal. Do they have the physical ability to develop the talent, or is there some type of handicap that is holding them back? Or are they motivated or not motivated? We all know those students that have such high potential, but just are not motivated to achieve. Can they self-manage? In self-management, can they concentrate? Do they have good work habits? Will they take the initiative? Do they have the ability to schedule their activities in order to develop their talent? And finally, personality plays a role in whether the talent is developed or not developed. In the same way, the environment plays a major role in whether or not an ability becomes a talent. There is a chance that a child will be born into a family that has financial means to offer enrichment activities, or that the child has nurturing parents that encourage the development of the ability. This is the catalyst that teachers can have a major impact on. Being able to recognize these abilities and provide the academic program that these children need plays a major role in the talent development. If these catalysts interact in a positive way, the child will realize his or her contributions to self and society. The child's talent will develop. However, if these catalysts interact in a negative way, the child will not reach his full potential. Children who were later identified as gifted showed early signs of giftedness, according to Kathy Kearney. 94% were alert as infants. 94% had a long attention span as an infant or toddler. 91% showed early language development. 60% showed early motor skill development. 37% had imaginary playmates. 48.9% were ambidextrous at some period in their development. The mean age at which the children read an easy reader was before 4, and the mean age at which the children spoke their first word was 9 months. In this next section, I want to look at a small little cartoon clip that kind of emphasizes the fact of why gifted children need to be taught differently than your average student? Aren't all children gifted? All children are special, but not all children are gifted. Shouldn't all children be taught the same way? If 100 is your average student, a student scoring a 70 would be so far away from average that he or she would need to be taught in a special way to meet his academic needs. In the same way, a student who scores 130 is just as far away from average and would also require instruction in order to meet his or her academic needs. In this next section, we're going to continue to emphasize the fact that cognitive abilities need to be nurtured. We talked a lot about the natural ability, but in this next section, we're going to look at the interaction of the brain and how the brain can actually be developed through the right environment and the right academic program.
A lot of people believe that all students should be identified for the Gifted and Talented program early in their school experience. They also believe that if they have been tested once and did not qualify, then clearly they are not gifted. This is actually inaccurate. When we are identifying students for advanced programs, we look at the child's cognitive ability. A child's cognitive ability actually develops over time. Barbara Clark has a brain model that helps us understand how outside influences play a part in the brain development or the lack of development. When we look at intelligence, we need to understand that our intelligence is made up of two components. The first is fluid intelligence. This is the ability to perceive relationships independent of previous specific practice or instruction. This one here is a fluid intelligence, and this is not the type of materials that a child will learn at school. This is stuff that they're problem-solving abilities that are independent of what they learn or past experiences. This is their logical reasoning ability. The other component is crystallized intelligence. Crystallized intelligence involves knowledge that comes from prior learning and from past experiences. Situations that require crystallized intelligence include reading comprehension and vocabulary exams. This type of intelligence is based upon facts and rooted in experiences. A teacher may have little influence on the fluid intelligence, but has a major influence on the crystallized intelligence. In her research, Barbara Clark shows teachers and parents different ways that they can increase the cognitive abilities of their students or their children. The first one is that movement. It supplies oxygen to the brain and allows more efficiency in learning. Actually, in this electronic world, children are in danger of losing their sense of three-dimensionality and their ability to imagine, to fantasize, and to create. Another thing in the classroom is the need for strong experiences, powerful experiences. When a child has these engaging activities and powerful experiences, they change the short-term memory into long-term memory, and this is actually what creates learning. On the flip side of these positive experiences is the negative experience. Stress and tension turns off brain cells. It prevents a good flow through the corpus callosum and creates biochemistry in the limbic area that turns brain cells off. The brains of students who are in stimulating environments have increased dendritic branching, and they have the potential for interconnections between the neurons, increasing the complexity of thought. The reticular formation, limbic system, and thalamus actively select stimuli and respond positively to novelty, to the unexpected, and to discrepant information. The need for this enriched environment doesn't end at elementary school. Adolescents are very susceptible of losing mental ground. An enriched environment is critical. A boring environment will strengthen the thinning effect. Other influences that diminish the adolescent's cognitive ability or their talent development, or that they lack role models, and they have a feeling of isolation. They lack challenge. Girls are often forced to choose between being gifted and being feminine. The repetition of known concepts and segregated subject matter can create boredom and indifference to achievement. The incidence of underachievement rises during this time of adolescence. A desire for group acceptance may create the denial of academic ability. 10 to 20% of dropouts test in the gifted range. All of this research demonstrates how important it is to not only recognize a child's potential, but also to realize that cognitive ability is not static. It changes according to the child's experiences and environment.
Gifted children do not all look alike. They do not all act the same. As you probably learned in your social emotional class, that there's a lot of internal conflicts that go on inside of the gifted children that make them all appear to be different. What we're going to look at here is the 6 types of gifted children. We call them the profiles of the gifted and talented. The first type of gifted child that you may see is your successful gifted child. This seems like the type of giftedness that we'd want to see, but in actuality, it's not. 90% of the students who are identified in the school setting are successful gifted children. They have learned the system and they play by it at home and at school. They learn well and are able to score well on achievement and intelligence tests. They rarely exhibit behavior problems since they are eager for approval. They may be bored and learn to get by just doing as little as possible. They're extremely dependent on teachers and parents. They fail to learn skills and attitudes needed for autonomy. The second type of gifted child that we might see are the challenging gifted children. These children are not often identified in the school setting. They're divergently gifted. They have a high degree of creativity and may appear to be obstinate, tactless, or sarcastic. They often question authority and they may challenge the teacher. They do not conform. They may draw conflict with their peers. They possess a negative self-concept. They often become dropouts and addicted to substances. The next type of gifted child, again, that's not identified, is your underground gifted. They're often females, although some males would be underground, especially those that are in athletics and see being gifted as something that's negative and they don't want their friends to know how smart they are. They deny their giftedness just to fit in with their non-gifted peer groups. The dropouts are angry with adults. They're angry with the system for not meeting their needs. They feel that they've been rejected. They may have interests outside the school program that have not been supported. School seems irrelevant and hostile. Often identified very late, they have very low self-esteem. The next type is your double labeled. These students are gifted, but they also have physical or emotional handicaps, or even possibly learning disabilities. They often don't show typical behavior of gifted students. They may have sloppy handwriting, disruptive behavior, have difficulty completing work, may be confused about inability to complete work. They show symptoms of stress. They may be perceived as average or even referred for remedial assistance. The last type of gifted child is your autonomous gifted child. Few gifted students show this autonomy early, although parents may see it at home. They have learned to use the system to create new opportunities for themselves. They have positive self-concepts. Their needs are being met. They're successful and they're receiving recognition. They're independent and self-directed. They realize that they can create change in their lives and don't have to wait on others to do it for them. So the question arises, what happens if we don't identify our gifted children? They deteriorate in their potential skills. Their easy achievement causes them not to be able to have to struggle. They don't persist. They have a pattern of low performance. They're bored, depressed, they have behavioral issues, and they have hidden abilities. On the flip side of that, what happens if we do identify? They develop self-confidence, they grow self-esteem, they maintain enthusiasm for learning, they gain an achievement, motivation, and self-concept.